issue.
It's
not likely to happen.
It's our problem to solve.
It allows us to ask, doesn't mean we'll get, I'm sure of that.
And think and wish.
Yeah, Mr. Prisco.
Mr. Chairman, I move to declare a snow and ice emergency in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 44, Section 31D for FY 2011.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Prisco, seconded by Mr. O'Leary. Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Next item on our agenda is Town Administrator's Report.
I would ask you to refer to the goal sheets. I'd like to start off. There was a memo in the board's packet concerning the Quinn bill litigation, and this evening in your supplemental packet, I gave you a timetable for a special town meeting. My suggestion and recommendation to the board is that the board consider a special town meeting on March 14th for the purpose of funding the supplemental budget funds necessary to pay the Quinn bill obligations that we have going back to July of 2009. There are not sufficient funds within the police department budget to pay for this. I've included a calendar which indicates that if you do wish to do that, your discretion, but I would suggest that it's appropriate to have a town meeting for that purpose, and you could open and close the warrant this evening. We would have a warrant before you at your next meeting, which is on February 7th, to sign. That would then allow us sufficient opportunity to mail it to the residents and have an informational hearing on February 22nd, which is the Tuesday after President's Day. We have to go forth and advertise and post it and such. But,
we think there's a problem with the 22nd. Can we have it the week before, even maybe the Thursday?
Yeah.
I'll be out of town from Thursday through the following Wednesday.
You're not at all constrained in terms of the date of the informational hearing. You can have that at any time after the warrant is posted.
So we can have it on March 7th?
That's correct.
March 7th is a Monday. That's our meeting. Yeah, that's our regular scheduled meeting.
Yes.
Regular scheduled meeting, and I had hoped to have the special town meeting on the 7th, but the auditorium is not. That would have been the earliest. The auditorium's not available until the earliest date is the 14th. That would work. Is everybody
The 7th would work.
comfortable with that?
Me
That
too.
would work.
Very good. It'll happen then.
So what action do we take tonight? Just the,
To open call a special town meeting, you have a motion,
yeah.
which has been prepared for the purposes of calling a special town meeting. And to set it for Monday, March 14th at 7 p.m.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Yeah. What's the cost for a special town meeting of this type? One issue, one meeting?
I guess it's around $5,000.
$5,000.
I think it's pretty accurate.
By the way, I did call the chairman of the finance committee, and I alerted him. I don't know if you had, but
No, I hadn't.
I did, and told him that, we would be holding a special town meeting. That would they be prepared to transfer from the reserve fund the amount of money required to cover the town meeting, and he thought there wouldn't be any issues in doing so. So that money will come in from a reserve fund transfer.
Coming from where?
Reserve fund transfer.
And that's for the previous fiscal year and the current fiscal year, or just the current fiscal year?
The reserve fund transfer would be to cover the cost of the special town meeting, Steve.
Oh, I'm sorry, okay. But not the...
No,
not the...
the amount of money to cover
I see, yep, okay.
the Quinn bill
Yep.
is coming from the 2008 and 2000 and through 10, overlay reserve, and $50,000 from the police overtime report, overtime account, which will cover the total exposure of the Quinn bill for the last year and this year.
That's the proposal.
That's what we would propose. And that's based on what's in the overlay and what's needed to cover the entire Quinn bill payout.
Now,
And that number is
You asked him
calculated.
about the overlay?
No, I have the
You
overlay.
gave it to us last
Close,
week.
close.
Yeah.
We'll have to bridge the gap with, like I said, if there's a change in the amount of overlay, that's the job of administration and finance to identify supplemental funds. Get there.
do we have that number on what we have to pay out on the Quinn?
The overlay?
The payout on the Quinn bill?
Oh, yeah, it's in the process of, rather than throwing out an additional number, I had indicated to you that the obligation was about $185,000 per year. I'm staying by that number. So $371,000 is what the town's obligation would be that we'd be funding at town meeting.
What would happen if the town meeting voted against it?
Oh, yeah, it's the same thing that the chairman has said with the snow deficit. Once you have a court judgment that's entered against the town has an obligation to pay it. So if town meeting were to say no, then it would be added to the recap for fiscal year 2012, and we'd start off $371,000
Right.
less.
That's in,
And I would hope they wouldn't do that.
But it will be a decision of town meeting.
yes, I understand that.
Right, or a decision that's out of town meeting's hands that
Well, I mean,
happens.
I guess the pain will be either way in paying this, okay? So what is worse, to have $371,000?
If town meeting, the police officers have won a judgment against the town for payment of the Quinn bill. They want their money yesterday.
Right.
So if they have to wait until next year for their money, it's going to just be further consternation and unhappiness, and
And my guess is that there could be some sort of a time frame imposed upon us to pay the judgment, even though we're appealing it, but we've agreed that we're going to pay it.
they could file for treble damages for lack of paying.
But up to this point, you've had discussions with them? at all?
Coming up. Yeah, I'll review the timetable with the warden.
But we haven't had any indication from Local 25 or Chief of the Lieutenants as far as any additional pressure at this particular point from a timing standpoint.
No,
And as a result, I can assume that that's because they're looking to work with us.
very much so, and I think it's important that we have a meeting with the local, the affected officers, so that they're aware of the timeframe, number one, and number two, they're aware of the specific amounts that are due, because the last thing I want to see is a dispute over calculator math. I think it's important that we avoid that.
We have, as of the last pay period, or 2 pay periods ago, been paying them.
Yes, and we are in the process of calculating our back obligations.
Just as far as the method of funding it, we haven't had any public discussion on that yet. I've asked that maybe we put that on an agenda item, not necessarily for the public hearing on, the week before, but prior to that, so that we can have open discussion in
We
relation
can
to...
have that discussion on the 7th if you'd like.
Yeah, I just think it's important to get it out there as to what the funding mechanism is going to be, explain where it's coming from and why, and then come to a consensus among ourselves first, and then if anybody else has any better ideas.
So it's not a question if we're going to pay it, how we're going to pay it.
How we're going to pay.
So that'll be on our agenda for the 7th. Okay?
That's fine.
Motion for this special town meeting.
Yes, that we have to do. Are we ready for the motion? Greg, you have anything else to add?
No, sir.
Okay. Mr. Prisco.
Mr. Chairman, I move to call a special town meeting for Monday, March 14, 2011, at 7 p.m. at the North Reading High School on Park Street.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Prisco, seconded by Mr. O'Leary. I'd just like to make a note for public consumption. This special town meeting will require a quorum of 150 voters in order for us to hold a meeting. So we would hope that those listening tonight, those that read the paper, block out some time and attend this very important meeting.
It won't be in the middle of the March, does it, March Madness? But it'll be brief.
It should be brief,
Yeah.
It
but
should be
important.
very brief, but you
Important.
never know. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Mr. Balatronis.
I'd like to go back to my report now.
Yes.
The board, I wanted to report on the annual costs associated with municipal employee contractual benefits, including sick leave, vacation leave, and end-of-career buybacks, and then finally, the one-time 15% longevity bonus. Wish to note that the calendar for submitting those requests requires them to be submitted to my office by the end of the month. So the precise amount will be known then. However, I have a good idea based upon what's been submitted and what we've paid in the past in terms of what the costs are that are associated with these items. I'm not looking for funding. The funding for these has already been budgeted for this fiscal year, but the annual sick leave buyback and vacation buybacks for all municipal departments is budgeted at $135,000, and that's what I expect we will come in at. In addition to the annual buybacks, there is something called end-of-career buybacks when employees retire. That's where we buy back any of their unused sick time, and it varies in terms of the percentages under the contract. But the cost of that in the most recent year was $66,000. The estimated cost associated with the annual the one-time 15% longevity bonus for municipal employees is $74,000. So the total cost of annual cost of these benefits is $275,000 per year. Please note, however, that the 15% longevity bonus and end-of-career buybacks vary each year depending upon the mix of employees who participated in the
So
program.
these numbers that you're using are what? This current year's numbers?
Some of them are, some of them aren't. Some of them are based upon taking average and taking what I have known to date. I think they're fairly accurate based upon my knowledge of the situation. The biggest piece is the annual sick and vacation leave buyback, which is pretty consistent over a period of time. The other ones tend to bounce around a bit depending upon the people that participate. But I wanted to get that information because the board had asked me for it a few weeks back. I thought it was important to give it to you.
And none of these numbers include any school costs?
No, these are municipal programs. But what I will do is when I have the precise numbers, I will provide the board with that detail so that you have that information.
This is helpful, though. Great, thank you. So,
Any questions? Moving on.
Next is follow-up with our meeting with the insurance consultant that we had a week ago. I am informed that the Maya increase for health insurance for fiscal 12 is 11.6%, and the range is a low of 6% and a high of 16.5%. The 11.6 is a little bit higher than what we had estimated. We estimated about 10. So 11.6% translates to a $583,000 increase. In terms of where we are going or where I am going, I will be scheduling a meeting with our consultant and with our insurance representatives, with the IAC, which is the Employee Insurance Advisory Committee, to begin the educational process that the consultant presented to you at our special meeting a few weeks ago. You'll also note that the governor has proposed legislation, which you're aware of from the conference, affecting group health insurance for municipal employees for next year. And I won't comment on the specifics of that proposal because my understanding is it's still being worked out. But that is where we stand in terms of the proposed increase if we do nothing. And certainly I'm not proposing that we do nothing.
Speaking with my